The James Show Podcast.
So this is interesting. A criminal referral has come from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard about the Russia collusion hoax. And this is something that I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get your hopes up. We hear things like we're going to crack down and there's going to be accountability. But no, these people so rarely seem to go to jail. And when it's the biggest of the big wigs, that's pretty much a never seem to go to jail. But if you want to get worked up, if you want to get a little glimmer of hope, there was a press conference here where Donald Trump was asked about it, and it's really in two parts. He said something about it at the beginning, and then he was asked about it later. And so I just married those two parts together into one coherent thought, and you'll hear a little between the two just to let you know that there was like another 2.5 minutes of questions and answers between the two. But this is the two big pieces of information I put together for you. Check this out.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President? Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was there. Look, he's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like that. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill.
I don't think it's crooked as the $3 bill. I think it's something else as the $3 bill. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I mean, I know I am. I'm just not going to. But those are some pretty serious charges. Some pretty serious. It's treason. We definitely know. Criminal referral. And he's saying the big names. He's saying Obama. He's saying Hillary. He's saying Comey. So that's great. That's nice. I'm not even saying he's wrong. He's probably right. All right. So arrest some people. Charge some people, put them on trial. Let's see what happens. Let's go. Let's do this. Because this is one thing I've observed. People like to get wrapped up in the idea that we need another inquiry into this, or we need a special prosecutor, or we need like congressional oversight committee is going to have hearings on this, and then we'll get to the bottom of it. But you know what getting to the bottom of it means? Nothing. They talk about it. They have some hearings. It's in the news. There's some people that get some sound bites that may be embarrassing for a little bit, but no one actually goes to jail. I mean, I don't want to say no one ever goes to jail. Rarely does someone of significance ever see jail time. And you have 1,000 examples of it. Who went to jail for COVID? Who went to jail for lying to you about COVID? Who went to jail for preventing you from going to your mom's funeral? Who went to jail for blocking your kids from going to school? Who went to jail for violating any of these civil rights? They closed down churches? Quite an obvious violation of your civil right. What even is the mechanism by which someone gets charged with First Amendment crimes? You ever seen that? You ever seen someone go to jail for First Amendment crimes, for violating the First Amendment? Because who would go to jail? Not the citizen, the government official that restricted that freedom. So name one. Name one that's ever been to jail for restricting your freedoms, or lying, or fabricating the Steele dossier, or crushing social media platforms to hide the lab leak theory or the Hunter Biden laptop. Do these people ever go to jail? So I would like to get excited. I would like to think, yeah, they've been busted. And not only are they busted, they're going to be held accountable. Don't get your hopes up. Did they deserve to go to jail? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. These people who took the Steele dossier knowing it was just fabricated out of whole cloth, presented it to the FISA court, actually modified the FISA court documents, which itself is illegal. Did they ever go to jail? Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, they ever go to jail? Or they probably still be having an affair. Who knows? But for the people who submitted evidence to the FISA court, and then after they knowingly submitted false information to the FISA court, and then got it reapproved 3 times, We should be asking some big questions, because it's not just should people be going to jail. It's also, what about this whole mechanism of a FISA court? Isn't it specifically set up to avoid abuses like this? And so if they just rubber stamp everything that the FBI agents or CIA agents put in front of them, what good are they? They're supposed to be the backstop to being spied on by your own government. They're supposed to be the backstop to keep Carter Page from getting wiretapped when he's in Trump's inner circle during the 2016 campaign. So I think we have, if what he's saying is true here, and I have no reason to not believe it, the logical conclusion should be these people need to go to jail. The people who submitted the FISA documents. We need to probably impeach the judge that approved it. If he's that easily duped from the most flimsy of evidence, and I say we know it's flimsy because it's not true, and we need to look at getting rid of the FISA courts, the FISA. We need to get rid of all that whole act. We probably need to repeal the Patriot Act. We need to stop all this government spying. You were told it was to keep the next bin Laden from flying in the next plane into the next building, but it's really just to catch drug dealers and political opponents. And it's modern use in 2025. Here to come ruin another great James show is representative out of the Midlothian area, Brian Harrison. Love having you on, Brian. You just always have bad news. And in today's edition of How is Brian Going to Ruin the Show? The special session started yesterday for the Texas legislature, and starting out just as disappointing as the regular session. Please explain.
Now, I wish I had some better news for you, but unfortunately, the liberal train wreck brought to you courtesy of the liberal uniparty in the Austin Swamp is continuing. I mean, look, the fact that we have a special session is evidence of just what an absolute dumpster fire the first session was. I mean, we didn't even do the basics. We cut nothing. We exploded spending. We grew government. We kept property taxes high. To do what, by the way? To keep funding the Biden-Harris agenda. We're taxing Texans out of their homes to fund DEI and liberal gender indoctrination, stealing billions of dollars out of your back pockets to go to liberal Hollywood. I mean, the complete madness. So the governor called a special session, and 2 days in, and what have we dealt with down here as a legislature? Well, the Texas House has done literally nothing, not even referred a single bill. The only thing the Texas House has done is basically spit in President Trump's face, who asked us to engage in a redistricting so that we could help national Republicans hold on to the United States Congress. And what does our rhino leadership of the Texas House do? Well, we appoint the chairman of the Democrat House caucus, who says that he is willing to break quorum to defeat President Trump's agenda. Yeah, we put him on the redistricting committee, as well as many other radical Democrats committed to doing everything they can to thwart President Trump's agenda. So that's what the Texas House did. We have empowered Democrats once again. And unfortunately, the Texas Senate has now officially spent their first 2 days dealing with banning hemp, as opposed to doing anything on property taxes. So here's the reality. If you're a Republican in Texas, you believe in freedom, you believe in liberty, you reelected President Trump, but the Republicans that represent you down in Austin, their priorities are completely backwards, and it's long past time we change that. But that, unfortunately, I wish I had some sunshine and rainbows for you, James, but that is the update 2 days in. Well,
I saw on social media that you have 10 bills ready to go, all about property tax relief. I'm really just interested in the one where you get rid of ad valorem taxes, period. But
I think that's my favorite one. I mean, look, we say we're Texan. I'm a proud Texan. We love our state. We say we believe in individual liberty and freedom, and we talk about private property rights. But the reality is there are no private property rights in Texas, because there are no homeowners in Texas, because every homeowner, even if you've paid off your mortgage, you are nothing more than a renter, and the government is your landlord. And if you don't believe me about that, by the way, just try not paying that tax bill at the end of the year, and you'll find out who owns your property real fast, and it ain't you. So yeah, I filed 10 bills on the first day of special session yesterday morning, or actually as soon as pre-file opened, so a few days ago. And my favorite one is a constitutional amendment that just says, you know what, enough is enough. We've got to find another way to cut to fund state governments, which we should make smaller, by the way. But we should not be able to do it by taxing Texans out of their homes. So I filed 10 bills. One is a constitutional amendment that says we should actually go ahead and make property taxes over the next 5 years. We'll transition off of them in 5 years. But we, at the end of that time, property taxes need to be unconstitutional in the state of Texas because never-ending property taxes, they're unethical, they're immoral, they preclude home ownership, and we need to throw property taxes on the ash heap of history here in the great state of Texas.
Amen to that one. All right, we're talking with State Rep Brian Harrison. He's a Republican out of the Midlothian area. Although, you're a little different than the rest of the Republicans. How come every person with an R after their name isn't talking like you?
You know what? That's a great question. I served in President Trump's first term as a senior position there, and I got home to Texas. And when I got elected, I just assumed that all these elected Republicans in Austin cared as much about fighting for small government and freedom and liberty as those of us who had worked in Trump's first term. And holy cow, I was the most shocked that I could possibly communicate to learn that the Republicans in Austin really don't care about that. The Republicans in Austin have basically said they'd rather make deals with the liberal Democrats in the media so that they're popular in the swamp. And I'll give you just one example. I mean, I wrote a letter to the day to ask the governor to put to add to the special agenda a ban on DEI, because one thing people don't realize is the government in Texas, the Austin Republicans lie to you. They say they ban DEI, but the truth is the Texas government may be the biggest funder of DEI in all of America. And so I filed 3 bills today that would end taxpayer funding of DEI and liberal gender ideology. If you're a taxpayer in the state of Texas, guess what? Your money is being weaponized against you and your values to indoctrinate the next generation into this liberal transgender indoctrination in almost every one of our public universities. And here's the real truth to answer to your question, why they don't hear more Republicans in Austin talking like me, because most of the Republicans in Austin are not Republicans. Many of my colleagues are Democrats, but they know they can't run as a Democrat and get elected in the great state of Texas. That's a compliment to the voters. But what that means is we have a bunch of frauds and charlatans who are just big government tax and spend liberals, but they pretend, they cosplay, they act, they pretend to be a conservative every March and November every other year. I actually argue it's one of the biggest forms of voter fraud in all of American history. Texas voters vote for Republicans, but those Republicans go down there and act like Democrats and vote to empower Democrats, and they're risking bankrupting the next generation. We're going the way of California, and I need more elected Republicans to do the right thing and stand up and say no.
Well, that's why we made the Rhino list. You gave me the list, farmed it out.
Right.
We got a map made. If you want a copy of the Rhino list, these are all the Republicans who don't vote like Republicans. We have a map, and you can find out if you live in one of their districts that's color-coded, and if so, then you need to get some work and get someone else in the primary. And if they don't get the job done, we'll primary them out in 2 years after that until we do get a whole bunch of people who actually represent the idea of a smaller government, because that's not what we have now. Now, Brian Harrison, what do you think is going to get accomplished? Are they actually going to get THC ban passed? Or is there going to be property tax relief? What's the most likely scenario?
I don't know. I'm furious that the Texas Senate is prioritizing a hemp ban over property tax elimination. I mean, the words, James, I can't believe I'm having to say this as an elected Republican in Texas, that the Texas Senate cares more about banning hemp than they do about cutting your property taxes. It's outrageous. And the Texas House hasn't even referred one single bill. So I have no idea what the priorities of the Texas House are going to be, that they're just going to engage probably in Operation Run Out the Clock again. And when we do finally get around to doing something on property taxes, because millions of Texans are outraged, they know that the Austin Swamp has been caught red-handed gaslighting them about the quote-unquote historic property tax relief that supposedly happened during the regular session, which was all a fraud. They're going to have to pass something. But here's what we got to do. We've got to be vigilant. I'm very concerned that we're going to pass a bunch more do-nothing bills that basically just continue the smoke, the gaslighting, the smoke and mirrors, where we tax Texans with sales tax for $50 billion, turn around and hand it to local governments, and then pretend we cut your property taxes. Meanwhile, those local governments just spend the money and then increase your property taxes on the back end. It's the world's biggest sham and shell game. And so what people are going to have to do is make sure, and I'm going to help with this every day on my X account at Brian E. Harrison, is just to call out the fake solutions. If the Austin Swamp continues to do more of the fake property tax relief sham that they do every session, that only results in people's property tax bills going up and up and up every year, taxing hardworking conservative Texans out of their homes. Meanwhile, they're using tax dollars to bribe California companies, including liberal Hollywood, to move to Texas, bring their liberal employees with them, and then they don't even make these big, rich, woke multinational companies pay the same property taxes that the mom and pop shops have to pay. It's an absolute outrage, James. And Texans, 30 million Texans, they deserve better than what they're getting.
That's enough bad news. Brian Harrison, state representative from the Midlothian area. Appreciate you being on the James Show
with you, buddy. Appreciate your part in bringing transparency to Texans. God bless you. God bless Texans.
And it's going just the way the regular session went. They immediately started taking days off and doing 2-day weeks, and that's how they started yesterday. They were in session for about 10 minutes. No bills got submitted or anything in the House, and then they adjourned until Thursday. So I don't think you're going to get the property tax relief that you want. I don't think you're going to get the school choice you want. And you might not still get the THC, CBD, whatever products they're trying to ban anymore if this session goes south. I'll make you feel a little bit better by playing some worse legislative proposals. But first, to the phones we go. 800-288-9227. This is Mike in Fort Worth on WBAP. Hey, Mike.
Yes, I agree with Representative Harrison. I hear a lot of talk about eliminating property taxes, but I never hear anyone put forth a plan. But what I would recommend is that we incrementally increase the state sales tax over the next 10 years. The legislature meets every 2 years. They could set that rate. And by the end of 10 years, the property tax would be eliminated. Now, I'm not smart enough to come up with the exact, is it going to be a penny? Is it going to be 3 cents? Is it going to be 10 cents, 10 cents, whatever? But that would be one of the things that I think that we need to be working toward. That way, paying sales tax, everybody will pay. The out-of-state tourist, the in-state increasing population that we're faced with. So everybody pays, no exception and no rebates. The other thing is we need to stop spending money and giving it to special interest groups. I'll give you 3 examples. Happened this legislative session. $1 billion vouchers or school choice or whatever you want to call it. $3 billion for an Alzheimer facility. $1.5 billion to Hollywood filmmakers. That's $5.5 billion right now. But increasing the sales tax, which is what I would propose, is the easy part. The difficult thing you're going to face is what are you going to do with 254 appraisal districts in this state? These people, these entities are not willingly going to give up their power and control that they have over homeowners and property taxes. That also applies to the cities and the counties. They set the rates. The appraisal districts sets the arbitrary valuations.
All right. First, I think I hear this a lot. In fact, I read an email yesterday from someone saying something similar. Like, if you cut all these property taxes, how are you going to replace the revenue? Mike in Fort Worth, I do not want to replace the revenue. I want to eliminate the property taxes and not make it up with sales taxes, because then that's not even a tax cut. That's just a shifting of the tax burden to somewhere else coming out of your bank account. And so, I mean, I guess that would be superior to what we have now, but my idea is just to cut property taxes, period, point blank of story, and don't replace it with anything. And so,
well, that's a good plan. But once we go back now, how are the cities and the counties going to provide the services? The money's got to come from somewhere, and it always must come from the taxpayer.
Yeah. So we have local sales tax. We have a local sales tax. So
yes,
that'll fund a bunch of it. What's wrong with that? That's my answer, Mike. Local sales tax. And look, and it's not just local sales tax. Like when businesses, when they have like their headquarters here, don't they get dinged with extra taxes here and there? So I'm not trying to get a new state income tax. I'm not trying to replace the property taxes with anything. I'm not trying to throw in another flat tax or anything new to replace it with. How about we cut property taxes? That's 51% of Texas state revenue in Austin. So then, boom, they just have to cut the government in half. That sounds perfect to me. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. I don't want to replace it. I want the government to be smaller, not to be funded at the same size.
But the government is collecting money. So what you're saying then is cut back a lot of the spending, and what is left over will replace the property tax.
So,
is that right?
Look, there's still state sales taxes There's local sales taxes, and then they ding you all over the place with all like these little knick-knacky taxes on your cell phone bill, or if you want to get a hunting license, or when you get your driver's license renewed, or when you pump gas. Some of that goes straight to the state. And I think the state of Texas just needs to figure out how to live off of that, and the local municipalities need to learn how to live off of that. And I think they will. Of course, I'm also a guy that wants to get rid of all these social programs. I do not want to subsidize Hollywood. I'd rather get rid of public schools. I don't think the school vouchers are a net negative on spending, because you save more in the taxes that you would otherwise spend to school that kid in a public school than you give away in a voucher. So, yeah, I mean, you sound like you fit in with, the Team Red umbrella. I just don't hear you actually adhering to the principles of wanting to cut government much.
Well, I would agree with you on what taxes we have now, state sales tax, local sales tax, et cetera, if that rate stays the same.
Yeah, I'm cool with that, too.
Okay. That sounds good.
All right. Well, it's a fun discussion. Thank you very much. That's Mike in Fort Worth. Having a heady little discussion. I hear this a lot from my friends who call themselves Republicans, and they're like, well, I'd like to get rid of the property tax, but what would we replace it with? Nothing. That's the neat part. Nothing. Yeah, you actually get to save some money. You know what you get to do? You get to spend that on you or your kids or your health care or their education or your bills or your credit cards or starting a new business or hiring a new person or buying a new car. You get to keep that money. That's the amazing part. Jerry Burleson, you're on WBAP.
How are you?
I'm great.
I want to talk about the property tax deal. There's something a lot of folks don't think about because most people don't understand how government works. I was in an elected position for several years, so I've kind of seen it firsthand. Don't like it. That's why I'm not there anymore. But one of the things, if you go to do away with your property tax, which I'm all for, and go to a sales tax, you need to keep in mind that the sales tax is controlled by the comptroller's office of the state of Texas. Even your local tax is picked up. Doesn't go straight to your local entity. It goes to the comptrollers. Then they send it back to the city or state or whatever, to the county or whatever. The problem is, and I'll make an example of a 911 tax that they used to have up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The county was basically getting that 50 cents every phone bill that was the 911 tax. It was being sent to the state of Texas. They were holding it in a dedicated fund, and the districts were only getting back, like pennies on the dollar that we were sending in. But they would use that dedicated fund with money in it to help them balance the state budget. So my fear, if we go to the sales tax instead of the property tax, is the fact that, number one, you're putting your local budget, whether it's county or school or city, under the control of the legislature. They're going to tell you how much money you're going to get for your state or for your city budget or county budget, which, based on what I'm seeing in Austin right now, that scares the heck out of me. And the same thing is they don't have to send it all back to you. So if we go to the sales tax, there needs to be some fail-safes put in place to protect the local entities.
All right, I'll just add to my bill that the sales tax revenue collected in that county doesn't leave the county. Problem solved?
Maybe.
All right. Well, that sounds like an easy fix. Well, that doesn't sound like It doesn't sound like an argument for or against sales taxes versus property taxes. You're just against the comptroller funneling of money through Austin, which, okay, then we'll fix the administration of it there.
Property taxes.
You're who?
I'm for killing property taxes. Just make sure that if we do the sales tax, there's some protections for local entities. All
right, y'all remember Jerry Burleson gave a great piece of advice on when we get rid of property taxes. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
He's probably right. Paul, Fort Worth, you're on WBAP.
Hello, Jay. It's my problem with the ad valorem tax, whether it be a sales tax or statewide. The problem is when John Connolly announced to us that they were introducing a sales tax, and he said, if it ever gets to 2%, there's got to be somebody stealing. Well, there's no parameters or means to keep these people from getting greedy and continually increasing it. And that's where we'll have problems. If we get an ad valorem tax, they'll always find a reason that we need to go up, until we're at 50 or 55%. And that's crazy because that's what happens in England and other countries.
Yeah, well,
And if we don't-
I'm
if we
not
don't
asking
think
for
that-
another sales tax to be put on top of it. I'm not asking for a value added tax. I'm just asking for we get rid of ad valorem taxes on property. I mean, if you want to do it with other transactions, that's cool. But the specific problem that myself and most people have with property taxes is even if you paid off your house 30 years ago, and I was given the example yesterday of a woman who's paid twice as much in taxes as she paid for her original house price, and she could still be kicked off of it in just a few years if she stops paying her taxes. And so you have this ugly uphill climb for property owners, especially if you're in like retirement. You should be able to have your property and not have to worry about being kicked out of your house that you've owned for 5 decades or whatever. And it just fights against the idea of private property, period, because if you could be kicked out for not paying your taxes, then you're really just renting your property from the state. And so there's as much of a philosophical complaint against it versus the dollar and cents argument.
You got that, and if you really want to see what can happen, just go to Congress and see what happened when we forfeited the right to pass whether or not they got a pay raise. It went from 25,000 to what, 180 now?
Yeah, somewhere around
crazy.
there.
So if their appetite never ceases. It's always more and more and more. I don't know how we put safeguards, and like you say, I don't want to have, like I'm 87. I'm still working, having fun. I enjoy it. But at the same token, I hate paying these taxes because, like you said, we'll never own our home as long as we have this program.
Paul,
we're renting.
Hang on, stop there. You're 87 and still working. What do you do?
I have an insurance agency that I've been doing I've been in the insurance business since 65.
That's amazing.
And I've had fun. I just enjoy it. And people say, you can't be 80%. As a matter of fact, I just left an office where I just placed a big sale. And he said, he couldn't believe it. I said, well, my daughter was born in Iceland in 1964 when CERTSI came up. And he said, well, I landed there in 65, and he was a pilot for commercial lines.
I got to run. We got to do news. Great story. Working till 87. That's great. I didn't think he was laying bricks or anything. I just wanted to know. All right, coming up next, I promise we'll get to knife control next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.